Get Out, a podcast about nothing. This is season 2, episode 3. Pesto, pesto, pesto. I feel like I'm quoting the Brady Bunch there. Marsha. Okay, so this is episode 3 of season 2, The Bus Boy.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But before we get into that, we have some special guests.
We do. It's a family affair. Welcome.
Hi, I'm John from Superposition.
Oh,
Hey,
it's John from
welcome
Superposition.
back.
Woo! Welcome back.
Welcome back, baby.
Woo-woo.
And my brother.
I am Joe Dizert.
Joe Dizert.
Welcome.
That is Uncle Joe Dizert
Uncle Matt.
Uncle Matt.
and my brother Mattmoo.
Yep.
Woo.
Hey.
Okay.
Who are you?
So for all first-time guests on the show, we always ask them, what was your first experience with Seinfeld? So, Uncle Matt, how did you get started watching Seinfeld?
On and off, like back in the day when it originally aired, you know.
Mhm.
It was the show in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's it. And then once I got on Netflix, it's like, I know what I'm watching every night before I go to bed.
Yeah.
That's
Cheers.
what's up.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yep.
what it's like for us now, too.
It's a nightly thing here, too. It's what I go to sleep to every single night.
Yeah, and Mandy's never watched an episode in her life, but now she can, quote almost every damn episode is on there now. When it comes on, she's like, "Oh, I got Seinfeld again." But she
Yeah.
likes
I'd love
it.
to have Mandy join us sometime if she ever wants to.
Yeah.
Oh,
really.
yeah.
She wants to. Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Come on, Mandy,
what's
because it's a family affair.
That's it.
Okay.
Thanks
So,
for coming.
yes.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so this is The Bus Boy.
The bus boy.
So, real quick, Mom, you want to give us like a 2-sentence summary of the episode? What's the deal here?
Yeah, it's a great episode. The busboy is really great.
Mm-hmm.
Great actor, been in a bunch of different shows. Basically, they go to a restaurant and the busboy accidentally sets the menu next to them on fire.
Yeah.
And so he goes and he puts it out, and then the owner is like, "What happened?" And he calls the busboy out specifically. And it's basically about them, George trying to fix the fact that the dude got fired.
Yeah, it's the whole episode is the fallout of the menu catching on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things that make this episode special. So maybe like, I don't know. The hope is that for people who are new to Seinfeld that you're kind of watching along with us. So like maybe you pause us and then you go watch the episode or something. So a couple of things to keep an eye out. So first of all, Jerry is not in this episode very much.
Yeah.
We have, I think it was we have a couple of firsts. So you get the first look at Elaine's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
You also get the first scene with George and Kramer that doesn't have Jerry in it. And they've mentioned that in like the behind the scenes look on the DVDs that it was kind of unusual. Like Jerry is the producer of the show. He's the writer of the show. Why aren't you writing yourself more of a role in the episode? So that was interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And anything else like overall that you feel like we should mention before we like dive into the details?
I want to say, one thing before we start.
Mm-hmm.
That this episode is like really no other.
Yeah.
I mean that in the way of they really do good. And it all pretty much works out
Yes.
for what they did. And that's usually not the case.
Yeah, there are definitely some super unique moments in the episode that I want to make sure that we talk about. But yeah, overall, like,
Yeah.
they have pretty good intentions, which is not normal for most of the show. So yeah, it's an interesting episode.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I like when at the beginning. I mean, because we've seen George kind of be a puss throughout the years. You know what I mean? But this one was like overly pussified, even for George. He was just like, "Oh my god, is he staring at me? He pointed at me. He pointed at me. Oh my god, oh my god." I was like, "Come on, George, fucking man up just a little bit there, bub."
Yeah.
So he is very okay. So yeah, that's a good place to kind of jump in. So okay, so at the beginning, I guess stand up one.
Yeah.
Is Jerry talking about how he's not a picky eater.
Yeah.
Right. He wouldn't ever send something back to the kitchen.
He eats rolls off of a hotel trays.
Trays at 2 a.m.
Yeah, who's gonna poison a roll?
What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
He does. He did. He doesn't. He did.
He's the one doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Traveling, like I don't know. I don't know what traveling was like back then for a comic. So maybe.
Right. That's true. Like, I'm initially like very judgmental about it, but then I think, okay, but if I had just done a set, maybe the kitchen was closed. I'm not at dinner.
It happened. Yeah.
I don't know. I probably
It's 4 a.m. and I'm a little drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then, so Jerry's talking about that, and then we cut to the restaurant. And it's just the trio, right? It's Elaine, George, and Jerry. No Kramer, right?
Yep.
And I thought overall...
Sorry, not the first time we see this restaurant either, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And I think the same table even later, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll show up a couple times as a set for another.
That makes sense.
Not the same restaurant, just
I see. Okay.
our restaurant. But,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So it's George, and Jerry, and Elaine. I think Elaine in particular, I don't know why, she looks super young to me in this episode. Maybe it's because of her outfit or something. I don't know, but just for me, this is like, oh wow, this is a real young Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
It is. She really is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and okay, all right. So Peter. Love Peter.
He loves Seinfeld.
Yeah, he does.
Who?
So
Peter. Hey.
Peter loves Seinfeld.
What's up, buddy?
Jerry points out a gentleman behind them, or at least in Jerry's view, that has a ball cap on and says 10-1 men that age plugs. And Elaine,
it's very subtle.
Very subtle as she can be.
Talking about the art. Oh, look at the art, the color.
Turns right around and says, "Oh yeah, plug Ola."
Plug Ola.
Plug Ola.
Oh no, sorry.
That was almost going to be the quote because that one's really great. Plug Ola.
So it was just cute to kind of see them chatting and being friends and normal people. George, of course, has something to complain about, which is the title of our episode. I don't know why I keep trying to like Pesto. Everybody likes Pesto. What, which I just have to say, when I saw George do that, I was like, and that is why I order the same thing every time we go to a restaurant. I usually don't explore. I'm not a menu explorer, right? Like a
foodie, as Jerry calls it at the beginning of the monologue.
Yeah, no. Does anybody? Okay, so this couldn't be a question for listeners, and I'm curious if y'all do this as well. So for me, I'm a very picky eater. So if we're going to a new restaurant, it's guaranteed I'll look up the menu and basically pick what I want to get before we get there. Because for me, there's like a lot of anxiety and like what's going to be on the menu. What if they don't have something that I like? That kind of thing. So let us know in the comments if that's something that you do or experience. But I could kind of feel for George. I think there's nothing like trying something new and then you just really don't like it.
It is a bummer at a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's really a bummer because you what are you gonna do? You just go order something else, but
it is what it is.
It is It's a gamble.
It's a gamble.
It is.
Such is life.
Which comes up again later about food. It's a gamble.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it really is. So yeah.
Okay, so they're just kind of bantering, going back and forth. It's really nice sort of chemistry between the three of them. Then we find out Elaine has a boyfriend. It's a boyfriend.
That's 100% a boyfriend.
Elaine has a boyfriend coming to visit her.
It's boyfriend number 3.
Which is,
Not really, no.
Definitely a boyfriend.
Elaine's boyfriend number 3. Ed from Seattle.
Yeah. He's coming to visit her for a week, which I don't know. For me, a week that set off alarm bells. Like, any of y'all think back to? I don't remember what the episode was called, but when Jerry and Vanessa went away for a weekend.
The stock tip.
Yeah, the stock tip. It's like it's a relationship killer. The weekend away, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, what's Elaine gonna do with the whole
And
week?
she's not even away. She's at her place.
Right, she's at her place. Stuck with somebody. So for me, I don't think I had seen this episode before we watched it. But I, of course, right away, I was like, oh, something's going to go wrong there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the next thing that happens is we see the menu catch on fire. George acts very out of character and like decisively and saves the day, puts the menu out, which I think is the beginning of George acting out of character for the rest of the episode. He's like a decent person for most of the episode.
Yeah.
He really is.
Ultimately.
Yeah. So then
playing the opposite, yes.
Yeah. So then George is like, oh, the busboy put the menu too close to the candle, whatever. But this ends up getting the busboy fired.
They're pointing at him, and he's flipping out when they're pointing at him. He's like,
right.
Super duper pussified, George.
Yeah.
So
he's freaking out.
So what do you guys think? Like, putting the menu too close to the candle, is this a fireable offense? I've never been a waiter. I know y'all have, so
I don't believe it's a fireable offense.
No, not a fireable offense. It's more of a, hey, dumbass, don't put it so close to the fire. Watch where you stick it. Yeah. But to get fired, it's
pretty extreme. But it is New York. It looks fancy. I get it.
It's a fancy restaurant.
It has like a paper menu.
The manager even seemed very, his last thing he said to everybody was sorry for the disturbance.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's true. So maybe it is
a proper kind of place. So I guess they have a high standard, and he thought that was really, a neglectful thing to do. You're gonna burn the restaurant down, dude. So no, bye.
Yeah.
She was like, Magic County is a fire in a restaurant every day when we're walking. There's something on fire. Oh shit, that's on fire. That shit's on fire. Fuck it, let's go. Get your chicken.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly, brother.
Get your KFC and let's go.
Yeah.
So this cues kind of like a guilt trip, both for George and for Elaine, because Elaine made a joke about like, I'll never eat here again. But no, I was joking, surely. And then George is upset, right? Because the manager.
But doesn't Elaine always do this?
Yes, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. It's like it's just like the pony remark, right? Like she says something stupid. And then but no, I was joking.
Yep.
Whereas in contrast, this time Jerry very much stays out of it, right? In fact, when Elaine and George are, having their anxious moment back at the table, all Jerry says is,
I didn't see anything.
I didn't say anything. And then he's like, maybe I'll try some of this pesto. And he takes some of George's.
Yeah.
which is hilarious, right? So we see Jerry kind of separating himself a little bit from the shenanigans of his friends.
Yep.
Yeah, so that kind of connects to what we had mentioned earlier about how like there's way less Jerry in this episode. In the behind the scenes, I don't think we heard from Jerry specifically, but we heard from other people about the episode, just talking about how like he was enjoying letting his coworkers shine a little bit, right? With Jason.
Oh yeah, he was kind of letting them have the limelight.
Yeah.
He was writing
wonderful.
He was writing scenes for them.
Yes.
So that's why we get George and Kramer in their own scene finally the first time.
Yeah.
And Elaine in her own scene later as well with her with Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we cut back to Jerry's apartment. I think
talking about resumes that busboys make up their resume or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're talking about, is there like a responsibility? Should George feel like he needs to get this busboy a job? And Jerry is like the super practical one in this case, right? Like, I don't know anything about him. He could be one of those people pricking people with pins, which shockingly, if you watch with the Notes About Nothing, was a real thing that was happening in New York around this time. It said for like maybe a month or two in the summer, I think in like 1991 or something like that.
Right.
There were some teenagers running around with pins, which is hilarious but terrifying at the same time, right? Yeah. Somebody just pricking you with something sharp, that's awful. Yeah. I would hate that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would ever have the guts to do it either.
Was Kramer in at this point?
No, I think he walks in. I'm getting the scenes mixed up. I can't remember if it's Jerry on the phone with George or if that's later in the episode.
I know.
Where like, yeah, no, I totally blanked on that. So,
oh, it's okay.
Oh, right. Okay, so here's what's happening. So they're all there in person. Kramer, Elaine shows up. She's borrowing Jerry's car because she's going to go pick up her friend.
That's right.
And then
she's very adamant. So, we got to stress though. This is all she talks about the rest of the episode.
Yeah,
is how she doesn't want that. She doesn't seem to be into this at all. But
right, yeah. So she has done them a favor. She got them the busboy's address, but she can't go with because she's got to go pick up her friend or her boyfriend. George is going to go talk to him to like alleviate his guilty conscience. And it's basically to see if he can do anything for him, which is very George-like thing to do. But he's going to do it. Jerry wisely says, "No, I'm not going. I'm not going to go along." But right as George is about to walk out the door, Kramer walks in. Jerry.
That's his 14th entrance in the series so far.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he calls him the K-Man. Take the K-Man with you. Which it kind of made me chuckle. It made me think about like, oh, take the dog for a car ride, right? Toss him in the car.
Donna.
Like a little, like the family.
Go for a ride.
Bring them along for the fun of it. It kind of made me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, this and Kramer too looked very excited to be getting out of the house.
Yeah.
George looked terrified but didn't want to admit it because he's never done anything with just Kramer.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that Kramer has left the apartment so far in the series.
Yeah.
And the way another thing we haven't even mentioned at all, and Netflix again, so they don't have the order out of order. I don't know why they chose this order, but
the government.
I know why. I figured out why. Because of the way they aired them.
Yeah,
because they
this one
didn't air
aired
them
last.
in the way that they are on the DVDs. They aired them differently, so that's how Netflix has them as the air date.
Yeah. NBC chose the order,
and
they made this one last because of the extra stories and stuff.
We're watching them in actual order of production.
Yeah,
that's why Elaine looks extremely young.
Right. Yeah, and that
because it is episode 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the Notes About Nothing, it does mention like NBC wasn't a huge fan of how little Jerry was in there, right? And so they thought, it doesn't represent the show well, right? And so they pushed it sort of to the end of.
They pushed it to the end of season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're like trying to like track the character progress, which is kind of roughly what we're trying to do, then this is where it belongs, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about this scene with George and Kramer together, because even before they get into the busboy's apartment, there's a lot going on, and it's really funny. So they show up. So first of all, can we just talk about their costumes? Like, if you are able to go bring that scene back up, because it's hilarious. So it's presumably wintertime, or like at least chilly, right? And so George has on a coat. He has on a little winter hat. I don't remember if he has gloves on or not. But then contrast that with Kramer. So, George, real short, little hat on. And then you've got tall Kramer, who's just got this like real thin kind of like raincoat type thing on, and it's like open and everything. So just visually, it's a really funny contrast. Like Kramer is like super casual, and George is like all bundled up. So that's really funny. Okay, and then you see them get in to the building where the busboy lives, and it's kind of visibly run down a little bit. We haven't seen really a ton of Jerry's building, except for like maybe a couple of shots outside of Jerry's apartment. But it's clear that this apartment building is different, right? It's like cheaper, maybe a little intimidating.
You can hear sirens the entire time.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And so
I think you see police lights out the window too. Most of the
yeah, they did good with the set.
It's a bad neighborhood. Yeah.
So George tries to prep Kramer. Does anybody remember what he tells?
He goes, just don't say too much.
Don't say anything. And he's like, what am I going to say?
Don't talk.
What am I going to say? Kramer's like, what do you mean? What am I?
I'd be like me going with Uncle Matt. Uncle Matt, don't say nothing.
He's
like, all right. And when you get there, you're like, what up? Like, hey.
Starting now.
Yeah. It was just really funny.
I forgot about before the apartment.
Yeah. Because George is, it's, to be fair, George is trying to do a nice thing, and he doesn't know Kramer super well.
Yeah.
And Kramer's unpredictable, right? Which is true. Like, he remains that way.
Yeah.
So George tries to get him to promise to be cool, man. But then right away, I love this. Right away, George knocks on the door, but he does it kind of, it's a fine knock, but it's like kind of quiet. And then immediately.
And then Kramer just goes.
Like right away. And George just kind of looks at him like, oh, man. So the busboy opens the door, which we find out later his name is Antonio.
Right
away.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I think it's an incredible.
He stands very
standoffish.
Out.
He wants to whoop George's ass right there. That whole scene, he just wants to wallop that bitch. He's like, oh.
Yep.
He's just so.
I think
sticking his chest out.
look up the actor's name. I forgot to have it ready.
Oh, I have it.
While they're looking and we're prepping. Yeah. So very standoffish. They come in. Kramer's trying to keep George mellow, like, hey, it's gonna be fine. And George is, trying to do the right thing, but he's just making it worse. And then we watched the episode twice, right? Because we usually do for the notes. And the first time I was like, wait, who left the door open?
Right.
So I was like, we watched it again to watch. Kramer totally leaves it.
Yeah. It's in
the last one in, so it's all
just leaves it open.
Yeah.
Because we watched it again, I was like, okay, yeah.
So
I have his name.
They come in, right? George is trying to.
He's panic talking.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
David
Labiosa.
Labiosa, I think.
Labiosa. Sorry.
But he's like a really, I think, well-known character actor. I think he was in a lot of stuff.
Yes, he was on Texas Ranger 24 and
CSI and CSI.
Like he's just in a lot
of shows. And it's terrible because he was typecast because I seen him in 24 and he was like this too.
Right.
Right.
Maybe typecast.
He's
you're not my cat.
His torso is his agent.
Yeah.
You name names.
So, anyways, I think he does for the few lines of dialogue he does a great job with silence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because personally, I couldn't really tell if the character could speak English or not. Like, I thought it would have been funny if
George does all this.
And he can't even.
That would be funny. Actually,
understand him. That's pretty
right.
Good. Yeah. But then eventually he does.
He speaks English, which is hilarious.
Which is also
the audience really loved that.
That's where Jackie Chan got it from Rush Hour a few years later.
It was really
he's like,
great.
I speak English. You assume I didn't speak English. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, did you guys know when he starts to get panicked and looking for the cat? When he walked over to the bookcase, he calls them assholes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great, right?
So I was like, wait a minute, what? He called them assholes. You've been down.
Yeah. So this is the problem of the he starts.
I love it.
George makes some sort of offer like, "How can I be helpful to you?" And then Antonio just starts looking around, looking for Paquita, who we learn is his cat. And then Paquita is gone because the
asshole left the door open.
And Kramer does this. Kramer goes.
Yes, Kramer very.
So
much
that's why I was like, I
George.
want to look. I wanted to look again, and he told me.
Kramer totally threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
That's so awful. I hate.
So besides the end of the
great
episode, well, maybe they didn't really know what Kramer was supposed to be in, But like besides the end of the episode working out so well, I would say Kramer screws George number one, but I don't really think he does. So.
Right.
It's not really. It's actually all works out pretty well.
Right. Yeah.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, who left the door? Like, who actually left it?
Yeah.
And then we watched again. I was like, oh, Kramer.
Yeah.
Okay. And you notice when he walks in, he's all smiling and shit.
Yeah.
I knew it was Kramer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Kramer.
Yeah. So the cat's gone. We see them like maybe an hour or two later, and they were still looking for the cat, which is again
George. They're disheveled. They're all sitting at the table. Yeah. George says, "I'm sorry for the cat."
Yeah.
Or the job, the cat. And then Kramer breaks the lamp off screen and the lamp. Yeah. That's what I was going to say for this quote, Mom, was the job, the cat, the lamp.
Yeah.
That was going to
that would have been a great quote. Absolutely.
So I want to talk about George
as they leave.
Say that again, Mom.
The little piece of the lamp goes bloop.
Yeah. But also George gives him his business card.
Yes.
And he just lost his job, and he's like, "Here, if you're looking for something else,
something better."
Some part of the real George.
He totally insults him too.
Yeah, he can't be too perfect.
Yeah.
something better or bigger. Like, dude, no.
So even the Notes About Nothing recognizes how unusual it is for George to be this unselfish, and they use that word unselfish, right?
Yes.
And it says this is one of the only moments, if not the only moment, where they show George being unselfish.
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious. I mean, and we could talk about this at the end too, based on how the end works out. Why doesn't he continue to be this way? Like, what is it that?
Yeah, because we thought it was because the fly. It goes as
right.
now.
Yes, the fly. Yes, we had a theory.
Maybe as we progress and break each episode down, we'll maybe see it happening. And go, oh,
yeah.
This could be the beginning of George's psychosis, because you see that all over the place.
Well, yeah. So that was my theory. I guess, was it the last episode or the previous one? Yeah. George swallows a fly at the end, and we're like, oh, that's it. That's the moment.
That's season 1.
Is it still season 1? Okay, it must have been the very.
I thought it was the end of the stock tip or the end of the because they had to.
Yeah, it was season 1.
He had the cigar at the stock tip, so it wasn't the stock tip.
Right. Oh, okay.
It was the mail unbonding, I thought, or no. What episode was it? When he swallowed the fly?
The stock tip, because that's how he won the money, right?
Yeah, stock tip, but it wasn't when he won
the
fly.
It was the ex-girlfriend.
That's it.
Yeah, it was the ex-girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
It was after all of that with Marlene. So.
Oh yeah, it was the season. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, cherish this moment with George, right? Because you're not really gonna get another one.
No.
Of him being.
I mean, we say that. He might again. We got a couple seasons.
That's true.
I know there's a downhill slide, and it's coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we'll figure it out as we break them down.
Also, a shout out to the director for the lamp break shot. That was really good.
Yes, that was.
Wonder how many times it took them to get that right.
Wonderful.
So because it showed the lamp piece, and Kramer breaks it, but Kramer puts it back in there, and he's like,
"Yeah, I agree. It's a good."
And he's
shot.
like, Kramer's all proud of himself, like, I fixed it, and they leave, and when they shut the door, clunk, it falls back out. So I don't know how they did that, but they did good.
Yeah. So. A couple of other things, just that the Notes About Nothing mentioned. That I mean, this is the first scene for George and for Kramer without Jerry, and Kramer especially, would become like a real breakout character in like this season and into the season 3. And I think they were talking about Larry David specifically when they said, he didn't think that Kramer's success threatened the popularity of the other characters. Like, it was always very much like what's good for one character is good for the whole show, kind of.
Yeah. They were very good about Kramer's strengths, let's all play to his strengths.
Mm-hmm.
What's Jerry's strengths, let's all play, not just a little bit, everybody played to his.
Yeah.
And then everybody played to George and everybody and as they got better, their chemistry, like they said there was no jealous work.
Right.
There was they all had so much fun doing this for years.
Yeah.
It's very obvious too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that over the rest of this season, is to see how Kramer kind of develops in our imagination, I guess, as a character.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing that I thought was interesting was, when you hear a lot of actors talk about how they have to kind of find a way to like the character that they're playing, right? Or to like justify who they are as a person. And one thing that Jason Alexander mentioned about George's character that he really admired is his sense of humor about himself. Right. So like George, the idea that George is able to just kind of take whatever's happening and still kind of laugh about it and dust himself off. Which I mean, not
leaves him gone for the bad stuff.
Right. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, maybe just something to keep in mind as we see more George too. And kind of think about how to interpret that.
So we're now Kramer entrance number 15.
Right.
And
back in the apartment.
Jerry is in a like phone sandwich with he's relaying everything George says to Kramer, and then whatever thing Kramer said back to George.
Which was,
and he's doing it in voices too. So they're like, "You are," and then Jerry's like, you know, like he's acted everything out there saying. It was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
That was wonderful. I really want to know if anybody was on the other end of that line when they were filming, like if he was actually hearing somebody's voice in his ear or not.
It's possible. They do. There's a little door right off stage, just out of camera, and you would hear Larry later on do George Steinbrenner. But So but I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. We didn't really hear anybody.
I always wonder that myself, if they're actually. You sometimes can hear them, but other times you can't.
Yeah, you hear them because they're off screen, and it sounds like they're really actually in a microphone.
I think especially with the voices Jerry was making, like if the person on the other end started laughing, I don't know, it just makes me
It's funny, like the best example of it sounding like a phone but then fading is in the not that they were gay, not that there's anything wrong with that. You hear George on the phone,
an amazing
but you hear him
scene.
break a little bit because he's on the stage trying to say but he can't help it. It's so funny.
So this is probably it's not the first scene with Jerry on a phone for sure.
No, it's actually a pretty common part.
One like a good comedic moment with him on the phone, which happens pretty frequently. Okay.
Elaine is now, we're at the end of the week. She's disheveled. So we're not at the stare off thing yet. She just tells Jerry, he's a wonderful guy, but I hate his guts. And that was going to be another quote option.
So Elaine shows up to pick up the keys for Jerry's car because she's taking
tomorrow morning, Eddie or Ed or Eddie.
Yes. And it's not been going well, right? As we could have predicted.
Yes, very big prediction.
Yeah.
So we don't really know which is odd because that's not characteristic of
right.
Because as the series progresses, we would hear everything.
Yeah.
So
actually, that's a very good point because she says he didn't do anything wrong. He's a wonderful guy,
but I hate his guy.
Right, and so rather
than
probably
all her. Yeah.
I've heard that a couple times though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Rather than pick at him or give him some weird
Mom, think about that. We would get a quirk or a title or a name or a thing they did, and she's just like, oh, I don't know,
with his mouth open or whatever.
I just gotta take him back, and Jerry's like, okay, it's funny how they don't have that full on. It's such a normal thing for them to do later,
right?
Yes,
dozens of times, and they just don't, it's not there yet.
Yeah,
right.
It just
because Jerry'd be like, no, you gotta give me something what's up?
But I did think, and I forgot to mention this from the first scene, but I do think that this is sort of one moment where we get Jerry and Elaine very firmly as friends, right? Rather than will they, won't they kind of. Because even in the last one, in the pony remark, Elaine goes with Jerry kind of as a date, right? But so now
for sure. She was his date.
Elaine very firmly has her own dude.
Yep.
And Jerry's talking to her about it. And, remember in season 1, there was a whole thing about we can't have this conversation.
It was very weird.
But now it's no problem.
Yeah, they're
right?
starting to be friends. Right. That's a good point. I didn't think of it like that.
So that I think, especially in that opening scene when it's the three of them and Jerry is teasing Elaine about, her special friend or whatever. That's where I noticed it. He doesn't say special.
I know.
Friend, that's what my grandma would say, right? That's how she referred to you.
Oh, that's my special friend there, boy.
What? I didn't know that.
You get them special goodies.
Do you have a special friend now?
Gosh, yeah.
And then finally, I was like, Grandma, yes, I do.
That's so funny. We have a stand-up. We have the second stand-up routine of the episode is sandwiched in between these great episodes. So we have Jerry in this stand-up. His theme pretty much was, if you miss the plane, that's it. if you miss the train,
you miss a bus. There's another one right now.
Grab a bus, grab a rent car, grab a bike, hit your car. No, you missed the plane. Well, all right, you have to get another plane.
You're pretty much.
Here we go. All right, the scene everybody knows this episode for.
Yes.
First look at Elaine's apartment.
Amazing. I love
and she loses it. Everybody just start talking.
So before the stand-up, she has been telling Jerry, "Got to get this guy on a plane, otherwise I'm gonna kill him." Right?
And nobody can stop me.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill them if
they. I'm gonna kill them if they try.
She's really hates this guy.
A little bit of foreshadowing, right? Because Jerry's like, "Well, how are you going to wake up on time? Do you still have that old alarm clock?"
Jerry's very adamant about that.
And but Elena's like, "No, I got a new one. It slaps you on the face if you stay in bed longer than 10 minutes, right? We're getting up at 8:15 or 8 o'clock, and I think the flight takes off at 10:15 maybe or 10:30.
And I bet New Yorkers everywhere, when they said the Van Wyck, I bet everybody's like,
yeah,
yes.
I don't know that street, but I do know
either, but it's popular.
10:15, and you're getting up at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
This is 1990. No.
Still.
Pre 9/11.
I was never in New York.
Yes.
That's true.
He would have fixed it.
Yeah.
You still get box cutters on a plane.
Right. Yeah. That's true. It was pre TSA days.
Because
right?
Jason, I think Jason would have corrected him if he'd be like,
Fair
"No,
enough.
you wouldn't make it in time." He would tell him.
Yeah.
Because he lived there for a long time.
True. So,
but it's probably barely. It's probably still
anyways,
not enough time.
Yeah.
It's probably like enough, but she's just being, I think, extra about it.
So of course, after the stand-up, you cut to the bedroom. Poor Elaine is
9:15.
We forgot to say that she didn't want to have sex with him, so she she's claiming that she's on her period for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But poor Elaine, you see this overhead shot of them, and she's like cuddled up.
Wow.
As far away
she's
from him
in the on the corner of the bed.
Yeah. Awful. So anyways, so she wakes up and it's
a
just
whole week.
An amazing scene.
I know what that feels like.
Madness.
Yeah.
Of her trying to get, what's his name? Ed?
Yeah, Ed.
Her trying to get Ed packed up.
They say Ed and Eddie in the episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calls himself Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's her rushing around, grabbing things, shoving them in the suitcase.
She is like over in the corner, and then she's over in another corner, and then she's over in.
Yeah.
Every time he tries to fold something, and
what are you doing?
I need my sweater. I need my brown sweater. Here's a brown sweater. There's your sweater. It's brown.
Amazing. I loved it.
You got to pack. Shut up and pack is probably.
Shut up and pack almost was the quote.
Yeah.
So we saw a couple of bits of commentary from Julia Louis-Dreyfus that said that she wasn't super happy with her performance in this scene.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
wow.
I think it's amazing.
I love it.
Really great.
The moment where he is shoving his pants at him and he's trying to put his legs in the pants, but she's like too close. She's like constantly shoving them, and so he's like hopping on his feet,
falling over almost.
And it's just incredible.
It's very good.
So
good. So good. Good job, Julia.
I do have to comment on the insanity of not packing the night before.
Yeah.
Like, what? We're both very like, here we have a
so am I. I'll pack
of lists, right? Like
way before I gotta go.
What do you mean? You're still you have stuff in drawers? You've only been there for a week. Like what?
Yeah. She wants him to leave too. Like she wants him to leave so bad.
Yeah, you figure she would have your shit packed up like 2 days. We got to go in 2 days.
You can hitchhike back to Seattle.
Pack all your shit but your toothbrush, motherfucker. You're packing that the night before.
Here's some money. You can get back to Seattle. You got a week. Bye.
Right. Yeah. That's absolutely. When I saw that, I think
insane. Yeah.
A little bit.
That was like I even forgot. I've seen that. This episode's it's a big episode, right?
Yeah.
The big moment for that scene. And I remember rewatching it too, like where I'm at now, and I who knows the last time I've even seen this episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they didn't even pack yet? I was like, no. Like,
Yeah.
no. I'm leaving. You guys can figure it out. I got to catch.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the airport now.
So it's an incredible scene.
You missed the plane. Bye.
Go watch it again. It's wonderful.
That's funny.
Oh, it's definitely
I think
on YouTube. It's definitely on YouTube.
Elaine runs out the door. We see later she runs out the door in a nightgown, a coat, and bare feet.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that she just throws her coat on literally over her nightgown. I made sure I wrote that down. That was so good.
This was the first.
Great.
I love her hair. I love the way she comes into Jerry's apartment next. Like, I love everything she does about this whole thing.
Whole scene, so great. I hate the hair, but that's just me. This is her first scene without Jerry.
Yeah.
And yeah, shut up and pack. I've like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we see Elaine again, we have this like amazing New York moment with George and Jerry.
Oh, it's very so George too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're just hanging out, and basically, I'm paraphrasing, but
Jerry loves quizzing people on stuff. He loves just like, hey, what's this? And he's like, best bathroom at these locations.
Yeah.
Boom. This street, this cross street.
George explains this. He says, if
giving specific addresses,
I'll be able to tell you the best public restroom in that area.
Yes, he's got a thing with bathrooms. We learned that early.
And Notes About Nothing does comment. Jason Alexander is a New Yorker. He's frequently. I mean, I guess I'm sure he
frequently knows all. He always not George level probably, but he frequently knows the best facilities generally.
Right. Yeah.
Just for being there for so long. Which sounds like an important skill in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. It's very important.
It is.
So he gives a couple of locations. So Jerry says 54th and 6th Avenue. And George right away says, Sperry Rand Building, 14th floor, Morgan Apparel. Tell them my name, she'll give you the key.
I love that line. It's such a good line. Jerry's face goes, Jerry's like, he just, yeah, like, I believe you. Yeah.
And then 65th and 10th, George is like, oh, this is obvious. Lincoln Center, the Alice Tully Hall, the Met. Magnificent facilities.
That's a good line too.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Very good. I love this because this does persist the rest of the series. Yeah. It's very bathroom basement George.
So so then Elaine
works like a gargoyle.
He played a gargoyle. He was in he was in Hercules. Yeah.
Got my own handicapped bathroom.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. Oh my God. We're gonna get there, man. We got a long way to go.
It's so great.
Notre
Dame. I love that dude.
You know what? I think there is an academic paper to be written about George Costanza, the significance of bathrooms.
There's quite a bit of material.
Instead of a coffee table book, we'll do a bathroom book.
There's evidence. There's
It'll have little dates.
So.
Okay, so Elaine walks in, barefoot, hair askew, nightgown.
Hair is like all over one side.
Yeah.
She's zoned out.
That's where I think she looks the youngest. Y'all talking about episode and that I just watched it.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So fun fact, Mom, back in the day or whatever, when we were watching these episodes, we I don't remember a lot of the early seasons. So when we watched the highlights in season 5 for 100 episodes, they show Elaine and zoom in on her with that. And for a long time, I didn't know what episode that was. And I was like, where is that from? But then I saw it. I was like, all right. Julia says, too, she did like her hair. She didn't like the stare off. Mm-hmm. I think the stare off at first is a little too much. As it goes on, though, and she wraps up the whole thing, I think by the end of it's perfect.
Yeah.
It is.
Think it just works.
So another incredible moment for Elaine.
Elaine kills it.
She talks about her, the whole journey through the streets of New York to try and get Ed to the airport.
On the median. She's on the sidewalk. She's like doing all this stuff. There's a 5-car pileup somewhere. And she said the Van Wyck, and everybody's
that was the quote I was thinking when she says, "They say no one has ever beaten the Van Wyck." And then, you know what I'm saying?
I got as close as anybody ever did.
Right. Yeah.
I want to know so bad.
That was so great the way she did that. It was great. It was brilliant.
It's crazy how she would have made it. Apparently, they were just tracking time.
Yeah.
She was like, she had it.
So you're almost hopeful when she's giving this speech because you're
really hoping they made it.
Yeah, because you don't know.
But then, of course, no, he's downstairs looking for parking, right? And it's a really interesting piece of contrast because in the moment, George and Jerry like go give her a hug. Like they really feel bad for her that this didn't work out for her.
No hugging, no learning.
That's what goes back to what you were saying earlier about her and Jerry relationship changing that episode, you know. And him and George, you know, go give her a hug and shit.
Yeah.
There's no hugs the rest of the series.
Right. So because in the commentary, in the notes about nothing, they quote Julia as saying they're such bad friends to each other.
Yeah.
Right? While this scene is happening. And so it's just an interesting because you get to see a moment of sincerity between them.
Yeah.
But then for the rest of the show, basically.
No. Yeah, the 172 episodes left.
Just trash each other.
Just downhill from here.
You know, so
I love how too that's the air order is so interesting to me. Because the air order, this would be the season finale. So you would see as a live viewer back in the day a leaf turn, or at least you think. And then it comes in with and it's a whole everybody's back to being like nobody's changed. Nobody's for the better. But the air date though, this would be the season finale. So you're like, oh man, that was good. No, like we're back to the masseuse and George gets, you know, it moves. Like
Absolutely.
Okay, so Elaine,
they're hugging.
George and Jerry, all there. We hear the apartment buzzer, but it's not Ed. It's Antonio, the busboy. And
I believe Kramer says he's coming.
Yeah. I just let him in. That's what he says. I just buzzed him in.
Like, oh God.
Kramer's seat knows his name. They're like friends now.
Yeah.
That's how he gets his connections. This is how Kramer starts selling weed. That's my theory. That's what he does because we never know.
Yes.
Yeah. So George, of course, starts freaking out.
He's outside of the house now.
Jerry, see, they had this sincere moment. They had this group hug. And Jerry's now like trying to kick George and Kramer out of the apartment.
He's like, I know.
Y'all know them. I don't know them. I don't know him. You know.
He's trying to push them out too.
Yeah,
he was. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Kramer's entrance, number 16, by the way.
Okay.
Antonio's on his way, and we hear, you know, so Antonio.
He bangs on Kramer's door first, don't he? And he's like, "Hey, we're over here."
George is everywhere in the apartment in the scene. If you
like
watch him next time, he's all over the place trying to get away. Like, and finally, Antonio tells him there was an incident. I'm not going to be too graphic because it would be horrible if it happened for real.
Mm.
And like, but there's an incident, and pretty much George saved his life.
Yeah.
And so, so they.
It was a bad incident.
It's endearing, and like the crowd is into it, and it's great.
Yeah. So he says, okay, so I would have died if I hadn't gotten fired.
Yeah.
Paquita, the cat,
came back
supposedly because of the explosion, which scared her back home. And he got a new job, which pays him, what did he say,
nearly
twice
double.
as much?
Nearly double
what he was making. So he's like,
yes,
George, you saved my life. Thank you so much. And there's like a moment of sincere applause from the audience.
Yeah.
Which I'm so curious, does this ever happen again in the show?
No.
They're
sincere, but it's not always.
But at first, you gotta remember at first, Antonio said all that, and then he's like, "Today's my first day, and I'm very late."
Very late. And I'm like, tell him, like, go to work and then get off work and tell him.
Twice as much, and your ass is late the first day.
Your friend now. George is over like every day. Like it'd be easy to figure out. Like, hey, all right, George is here.
Yeah.
Or hey, Kramer, pass on a message. Like,
so the sincerity does not last very long, right?
No.
So Ed, the Antonio leaves, right? But we hear Ed, like we hear through the buzzer, Ed's coming up, and this is a moment that Larry David talks about. I guess the behind the scenes or whatever, and he says the intersection of these two storylines. He said it was like a freight train.
Like a light bulb went off. He went, that.
He said, I want to make this happen more.
And that happens every episode.
It's very, very interesting. But so what happens is
that is another key reason NBC put this last, because every episode, all the stories converge after that.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
So Antonio's leaving. Ed comes up the stairs. They run into each other. They start talking shit to each other. They get in a fight.
So random.
We don't see that.
George is running from them talking. Next time you see it, watch George. Because they're like all looking, and Elaine's like looking, and they're all kind of looking. And George is like all the way in the back by the computer. And it's just like this huge gap between everybody looking out the door and George all the way as far as possible.
If it were me and I were that anxious, I would be like in the bedroom.
It was so, but you get to see Jason because he's like back there, and he's like he can't help it. He's like jittery and he's on his toes, and he's like so. I was watching again, and I was like, oh my god! I was like, I never.
Yeah, they apparently beat each other up pretty badly.
Right, and they both fall down the stairs. Right.
Yeah.
And so what's amazing is we don't see them fighting, right? We see the friends.
Which is always funnier. It's always funnier.
Right.
That's always funnier, yeah.
So
always.
What do we have another stand up before the ending?
No,
scene?
we're gonna. There is a little.
That's at the very end.
There is a little recap at the.
So we cut to the diner.
We cut to the diner.
Right.
Yeah. Monk's Cafe. Monk's Diner.
We know both of them are in the hospital.
Yeah.
Right, because George is feeding Paquita.
Yep.
Right. If I don't feed Paquita, she'll go all over the place. Which, do we ever see George caring for an animal ever again? No, I don't think so.
No. Unless he was trying to get like a girl. No.
Yeah, and then Elaine is still stuck with Ed because
she has to feed him.
They ask how long, and she says until he goes back to Seattle or until he can feed himself again.
That's how bad it is.
That's a nightmare.
Yankee Bean. We're not there yet, though.
Ew.
We're not there yet.
And what George say? Doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter, or something like that.
Elaine and Yankee Bean. She doesn't know, Mom. She said ew, and I'm like,
I'm good. I'll sit out that.
Yankee.
So this really made me chuckle too. So George
fell on him with his knee. Is a quote. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah.
Ow.
So anyway, so Elaine
fell on him with his knee.
Right?
Yeah.
And Jerry has the audacity to just sit there enjoying his food, and then the busboy comes and picks
He's
up
like, hi.
and smiles and waves. And I'm
he's good.
You know what, Jerry? You are so pleased with yourself that you stayed out of this.
He is. You can tell. He's like, oh yeah.
But the whole episode.
He's apartment. He's trying. He's like, I know.
So
like he's barely in the whole. Like you said earlier, he's don't have a whole lot of screen time in that episode, but when he's in that episode, like he's just he's an ass the whole time.
He is enjoying himself now. He's
very through and through.
Yeah.
So we have a real short stand-up scene to wrap up the episode. It's Jerry talking about how I don't understand why people fight.
Yeah.
Why do they fight?
And he said, boxers, how do they even fight? There's no argument.
They should they should get into a combat, and then they would have a reason.
Yeah, they come out. Oh, the fender. Oh, look at the bumper. Now you got to fight.
Dumb, smart ass little thing that Jerry would
It's
say.
pretty funny though, because it's true. Everybody want to fight after that.
So we're running long, which is fine. It's just because we're having a good time. So, but let's go ahead and try and wrap up. So, who do you think? Which character do you think won this episode?
I want to vote for everyone as doing good. Jerry,
not Jerry. He doesn't get a
but
point.
I'm not mad at Jerry. I know Jerry, and I know Jerry's going to act this way, and I'm okay with that. I think that it was a really sentimental episode, and I want to give the hell yes to the cast, and I want to say Ed is the loser.
Yes, dumb Ed. Dumb Ed.
Yeah, we don't like Ed.
He's the loser.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, he did lose the episode if so he lost, it is Ed.
That's
he lost stuff too.
Right.
But there might be
it's not his fault.
Yeah. And then like
Well, I don't like it
for sure. Mom, that's a good point. Elaine needs some flowers.
Me, it's Elaine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
that is like a break. That was like the first, like, I don't even know.
Amazing.
Since like Lucy.
Comedy moment.
Since like probably I love like Ethel and
Lucy.
Like I don't really, I can't think of any other.
I really
it's so sad that she hates it, that she doesn't like her.
I think it's such a big first Elaine moment. They probably talked about it a lot. She was overly critical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she realized she was.
She would give herself a B- on that scene.
Wow, because she's so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she probably got a lot of spotlight initially for that episode, for that scene, and was like, it was just kind of different.
Yeah.
And she got attention for it probably, and then was like, saw it probably several times, especially back then. It's probably like, nah, I don't like it. I could have done better,
Okay.
But she does do better.
I think Kramer was a close second, just because
he's a great
as many laughs as we got from him, and he had very little dialogue.
Yes.
That is so true. He doesn't have to say a whole lot of anything. He's hilarious.
Right.
Okay, so I have a question, and maybe we can kind of chime in on this, and then we'll see what our viewers think going into next week. So this is like one of the few sincere, like we have a couple of sincere moments here, right? We got the only moment of sincere applause in the show. Do you think, does this fit the Seinfeld vibe? Or is this like not a misstep, but is this like
a one shot?
Yeah. Like, does this fit in the canon, or is it like what do you think the show would have been like if there were more episodes like this?
Well, I think it's in the canon. Because George.
We lost him.
All right. Well, all right. Hey, just in case of posterity here. Hey, all right, everybody. We're about done anyway. So Uncle Matt, thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me, bro.
I'm gonna try to get this still to Mom, and it should be fine. We'll just end it for her.
Yeah.
Just so I don't know if we can.
I don't know. I guess we can't stop the recording, but I guess we can leave.
Well, she can hopefully still.
Yeah,
because she's gonna edit it. It just
It'll be okay.
If she hops back in though, I guess we're good. But like, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
So
something
that was
happened.
just
Maybe
like
their computer died or something.
Yeah. All right. But just in case, I can do an outro. So everybody, thanks for watching this week and watching always. If you want to be a guest on the show, please let us know. Our guests this week were John from Superposition, Joe Dizert, my Uncle Matt. Big shout outs.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. We're going to do next week is, I don't have the list with me. Mom did. But I know episode 5 is the jacket. And we thought that was next, but
so we've got the jacket coming up, but you're right, there are
jackets in 2 weeks. Oh, poor Mom too. She's gonna be like, wow. Like, yeah, because hopefully like she doesn't lose the
upcoming episodes, not necessarily in this order. We have the jacket, the phone message, the apartment.
Oh, the phone message is hilarious. You haven't seen that one either.
Okay.
That's good.
The statue.
Yeah.
Right. We have a 12 episode season, right? So we have a lot more. I'm so excited though. The classic, the Chinese restaurant, is in this season. I think that's amazing to have such a well-known episode only in season 2. You know? But we'll talk more about that.
This is the first TV show ever to be filmed all in one location the whole time.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up.
Yeah. This is just so Mom has a definitive, she hears us closing out and saying bye, and she can, as long as everything's still cool. Yeah. So I'm going to text her and tell her we did that. But until then, bye.